We'll go ahead and have a seat. And as you come to your seated position, just find that nice straight spine. Relax your shoulders as much as you can on this cold, cold day. And just take a moment to take a deep breath in. And a big exhale through your mouth. Close your eyes. Truly take a moment to feel into your body. And there's probably different layers of sensation. So I know for me, my first overwhelming sense is cold since it's so icy today. But beneath that, how do your muscles feel? How do your joints feel? What are the places that maybe feel warm and pliable and open? Notice anything and everything that your body wants you to know. And then we're going to begin our Ujjayi breathing. And I want you to really focus on pressurizing it, because that pressurized breath actually helps generate internal heat. So make as much noise as you can as you breathe in and out through your nose. And then just start checking in with thoughts, emotions, energy, connection. Bring your palms together and take a moment to set your personal intention. When you're very clear about what you need from your practice today, take a deep breath in. Big exhale through the mouth. Good. We're going to go straight on to hands and knees and just do a few cat-cows to just kind of get things flowing, the breath, the blood flow, the prana flow. Inhaling to arch and exhaling to round. And then when you feel ready, go ahead on an exhale and take your first child's pose. Take an extra breath or two to just breathe into the low back. And then we'll scoot forward into Sphinx, making sure that your glutes are relaxed so that you can pull some length into your spine. And then downward facing dog. Take as much time as you need to kind of get your body adjusted. When it's cold like it is today, we give our body a little more time to get up to speed, to get warm. And then let's go ahead and just walk the feet forward. Keep your knees bent, hang and ragdoll. And then on your next inhale, reach the arms all the way up and overhead, stretch up. And then as you exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up, stretch up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale and look up halfway. And then exhale, back down. So we're going to step back with the right foot first. And you're just coming into that usual initial lunge that we get into. Once you've had a breath or two to kind of make sure you're in the right spot, we're just going to start dialing in sensation in the front of the hips. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a class about pelvis alignment and tilting the pelvis. So in this position, if you just kind of tilt the pelvis back a little bit, which is sort of like tucking your tailbone under or tightening this right glute, and you just let your hips kind of surrender to gravity, you may begin to have some sensation in the front of your right hip. We're going to go ahead and put the right knee down now. Bring the arms up and overhead. Pelvis tilts back again. Lift your chest and allow the hips to start moving forward, opening up front of the right hip. And so again, the glute on the right side is tightening. Pelvis is tilting back, and you're just breathing the hips forward, finding that little bit of openness. Bring your hands down on either side of your left foot and extend your left leg. Flex the ankle and the toes. Let that right hip shorten back up. So this is kind of like a counter pose as you open up your left hamstring. And then we're going to bend the left knee again. Bring your left hand to the inside of your left foot. So this first time through, even if you're a more advanced practitioner, keep your right knee down. We're going to come onto the right forearm. Feel free to use a block under your right forearm if you need to. Those of you who can, get both of them down. So same thing in this lizard pose. You can either just hang out, but why would you? Or you can tilt your pelvis back slightly and keep letting the hips sink and see if you can get some opening here on the front of that right hip. And then come back up onto your hands. Right hand is going to plant on the mat. Your left hand is going to come literally onto the inside of your left knee. I want you to roll to the outside edge of your left foot and apply some gentle pressure to open up that left inner thigh and left outer hip. And then from here, we'll just transition onto our hands and knees. Wag the tail a minute. So for those of you who do full vinyasas, you can begin, and of course that will help you get warmer quicker. But the rest of us are going to shorten up the hip flexors that we just opened and take a quick counter pose in our child's pose. Breathe into your low back. And then scoot forward into either Sphinx or Cobra. And then downward facing dog. From your down dog, step your right foot forward. And you're just coming into your lunge here. And the same thing that we did on the other side, once you kind of get yourself set, slightly tilt the pelvis back or tighten the muscle right at the base of your left glute, like tighten your left buttock. And then let the hips just kind of start dropping towards the floor and see if you can get into some sensation on the front of your left hip. And then we're going to drop the left knee down, bring the arms up and overhead. And again, tilt the pelvis back, lift your rib cage, start letting your hips move forward, making sure that left glute feels tight so that the front of the left hip can open. And now we're going to bring both hands down, either side of the right foot, extend your right leg. So you get to shorten your left hip flexor now while you're stretching out your right hamstring. And then we're going to bend the right knee again. Bring the right hand to the inside of the right foot. Keep that left knee down for now. Come on to the left forearm if you can, maybe both, whatever your version of lizard is for today. But then once you're down, see if you can tilt your pelvis back again. Tighten that left glute. Let the front of the left hip kind of move down towards the floor. And then come back up onto your hands. Left hand is going to plant on the mat. Your right hand is literally on the inside of your right knee. You roll to the outside edge of your right foot and apply a little bit of pressure so that you feel right inner thigh and right outer hip stretching. From here, step forward to your standing forward bend. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up and overhead. Exhale, palms together in front of your heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale and look up halfway. And then exhale, back down. This time, step back with your left foot. So you have that right foot forward lunge. And do the same thing we did the first time through. You've already done some opening. So if you tilt your pelvis back here and allow the hips to drop down towards the mat, you might be more aware now of your left hip flexor, the front of the left hip. So the more we get into this, the more sensation you should have there. From here, we're going to drop the left knee down, and I want you to scoot your right foot forward quite a bit. So if you don't move your hands, a nice guide might be, so if your hands are under your shoulders, maybe have your right heel even with the tips of the fingers, so it's out in front of you. And then you're going to come up with your hands on top of your right thigh. Tilt your pelvis back and let the hips move forward again. Really tightening left glutes, and then go ahead and take the arms up. Let those hips move forward. So this kind of just gives you more to play with, right? So you can get a little deeper into that left front hip. Then I want you to keep your right foot where it is. Don't scoot it back. Both hands down inside the right foot. Come onto your left forearm, maybe both. This time around, those of you who like to take the left knee off, please feel free to do so, but still try and tilt the pelvis back. You want to tighten your left glute. Release that left knee down. We're going to step straight back to downward facing dog now. So press the hips up and back. Really reach your tailbone for the ceiling. So what you're doing now is tipping your pelvis forward, which is a nice counter pose. And then step your left foot forward. Just like we did the first time through, tilt your pelvis back. See if you have more sensation now on the front of your right hip. And then drop your right knee down and scoot your left foot forward. Again, you want it pretty far out there. So I like to kind of line my left heel up with my fingertips. And then you're going to come up from that with hands on top of your left thigh. Pelvis tilts back, hips move forward. You make sure you feel balanced. And then you bring the arms up and overhead. Keep your right glute tight. And then we're going to keep our left foot where it is. Bring both hands down inside the left foot. See if we can come onto the right forearm, maybe both. And it's optional, but those of you that would like to turn the right toes under and take the right knee up, but tilt your pelvis back. Your right glute should be tight here. And again, stepping straight back, downward facing dog. Hips are really pressing up and back. Walk your feet forward to a standing forward bend. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up and overhead. And as you exhale, palms together. in front of your heart. Make sure your block is within reach. We're going to be using it this next time through. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale and look up halfway, and exhale back down. So now we're going to step back with the right foot. I want you to grab your block, or if you're using a folded up blanket or towel, it works perfectly. You're going to put it underneath your right knee. Then scoot your left foot forward again, kind of like we did a moment ago. It should be farther out than you think. Then we're going to come up with hands on top of the left thigh. Tighten that right glute, so tilt your pelvis back and let your hips move forward. It gets a little more exciting when the knee is elevated. Now, only for some of you, not for everybody. You have to pay attention to your knees, but if it feels okay, you're going to bend your right knee. Reach back with your right hand for your foot or ankle and keep letting the hips move forward. It's pretty intense. Opt out if you need to. If you're in it, breathe. And then release. Go ahead and step straight back. Downward facing dog, so counter pose, shortening the front of that right hip. And then step your right foot forward. Get your block or your towel, put it underneath your left knee. Once you get it there, scoot your right foot forward. That's part of the fun. And then come up with your hands on top of your right thigh. Tighten that left glute. So tilt your pelvis back, let your hips move forward. And this may be plenty, so don't feel like you have to do anything more than this. Only if it feels okay, bend your left knee, reach back with that left hand, grab the foot or ankle, and keep letting the hips move forward. And again, release your left foot, go straight to downward facing dog, shortening that left hip flexor. You can just kind of move your block out of the way, walk your feet forward, standing forward bend. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up and overhead. Exhale, palms together in front of your heart. So your balance pose today is going to be dancer. And here's what I'm going to suggest. Rather than leaning with it the first time, so you heard that right, you're going to do it twice. Rather than leaning forward with it the first time, really focus on getting the sensation in the front of the hips. That second time you do it, you can lean forward if you want to, but a lot of times we get caught up in what we think it should look like and we miss the opportunity to open the hips. So we're going to stand on the right foot first, and I'll kind of try and show you from the side. It doesn't matter to me today if you grab the inside or the outside of your ankle or foot, but you're going to use your left hand to grab your left foot. If you're balance challenged, just hang on to the wall with your right hand. If you're feeling well balanced today, the right arm is up in the air. Pelvis tilts back. Pubic bone pushes forward. We're going to stay upright this first time and just pull that left leg back while we're tightening the left glute so that we feel the front of the left hip stretch. And then release, and we'll do the other side. So you're going to stand on your left foot, grab your right foot with your right hand. Remember, if you need to hang on, that's fine. Otherwise, left arm is up. We tilt the pelvis back. We tighten our right glute, and pull the right leg behind us. So the more we tilt our pelvis back and pull the leg back, the more we open the front of the right hip. Pay attention to what that feels like. And then release. So that's the same sensation that you want to have this second time if you choose to lean into the pose, right? And you don't have to. You could do the same thing we just did. and stay upright. But if you choose to lean into it, make sure that you're still feeling sensation on the front of your hip. So again, here we go. Stand on your right foot, reach back and grab your left foot. Right arm is either hanging onto something or extended. Pelvis tilts. Leg pulls back. Left glute is tight. Left front hip is opening. And we make sure not to lose that if we choose to lean into it. And the leaning into it is purely optional. Come on up and try your other side. Stand on your left foot. Grab your right foot or ankle with your right hand. Left arm is either in the air or hanging onto something. Pelvis is strongly tilting back, so your right glute is tightening. Right leg is pulling behind you to achieve sensation in the front of the right hip, and you make sure not to lose that if you choose to lean forward. And then we'll come back up from that. Feet together, palms together. Inhale, reach the arms up. And exhale, fold forward. Hold your forward bend for a moment, making sure you're tipping your pelvis forward. So it's a good counter pose for the dancer that you just did. And then look up and lengthen. And back down. So we're going to step back onto our hands and knees. Those of you that are doing full vinyasas, you are welcome to take one. The rest of us are going to go ahead and take that child's pose and shorten up the front of the hips. Give ourselves that nice counter pose. If you're in child's pose, scoot forward into Sphinx. And then downward facing dog. So from this downward facing dog, we're going to step the right foot forward. Adjust your stance if you need to. We're going to stay on the left toe, so it's going to be a lunge. If you're able, it's going to be a high lunge. If you need to, you're welcome to drop the left knee down. Otherwise, arms are up and overhead. Left glute tightens as we tilt the pelvis back. We let the hips drop. We find sensation in that left front hip and we take 3 breaths. Hands come down. And only as much as your body says is okay. Just begin to straighten your right leg. It's all right if it doesn't go straight. Just take a breath. And we are actually going to step forward here to a standing forward bend. And inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Look up halfway. And then back down. So we're stepping back with the right foot. Again, widen your stance if balance is an issue. If your hips or your knees don't like the full lunge, feel free to drop the right knee down. Otherwise, we're coming up into our high lunge. Tilt your pelvis back, tighten your right glute, and allow the hips to move down towards the floor. And then breathe. Hands come down on either side of the left foot. Gaze forward. Just begin to straighten the left leg. Don't worry if it doesn't go straight, not important. You just want to feel the back of that left thigh. And then step forward to a standing forward bend. Inhale and reach the arms up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Look up halfway. And then back down. And I want you to move back onto your hands and knees. And again, you're only going to do as much as feels good for you in your body today. So the first thing we're going to do is extend the right leg straight behind us in the air and flex the foot. If you can, you're going to extend your left arm in front of you. If you can, only if you can, you're going to bend your right knee and reach back with your left hand for your right foot or ankle. Now, here's the deal. We don't want to just hang on to it. We want to tilt the pelvis back, tighten the right glute, and pull the leg up until we feel this on the front of the right hip. So tilt your pelvis back, breathe. Release it all down. Wag your tail. Buns to heels, child's pose, so that that right front hip gets the opportunity to shorten for a moment. Back onto hands and knees. Other side, left leg extends into the air, flex the foot, raise it up. Right arm extends in front of you. Only if it's okay with your body, bend your left knee, reach back with your right hand. Once you get your left foot or ankle, tilt your pelvis back, tighten your left buttock, and pull the leg up towards the ceiling until you feel this in the front of your left hip. Release it down, tail wag, and child's pose. From this child's pose, those of you that are doing full vinyasas, off you go for one final one. The rest of us are going to take a final Sphinx pose and lengthen our spines. And then downward facing dog. Press it up and back and stretch your spine. Really try and tilt the pelvis forward now. It's kind of like you're trying to stick your booty out or poke your tailbone towards the ceiling, and you still want to keep those heels pressing towards the earth. From here, walk your feet forward and have a seat. So we're going to start for a moment in Dandasana. You'll still be using your block or towel, by the way, so you keep it within reach, but not till we get on our backs. So we take a moment in Dandasana, just straightening the spine, engaging the legs, taking a moment to check in. And then inhale and reach your arms up. And as you exhale, just fold out over both legs. This is a really nice counter pose for all the front hip opening you've been doing, and we're not done. So enjoy this little counter pose for a moment. And then go ahead and come on up from that. We're going to bend the knees with the feet flat, and then take your feet wide, wider than your shoulders. And you can kind of play with this. Have your hands behind you so you can kind of lean back on them for a moment. We're just going to play with a different way of opening up the front of the hip and kind of play with hip mobility. Be mindful of knee issues, please, and don't push more than you need to on this. The first thing we're going to do is just drop both knees to the left. It's like you're trying to press that inner right knee into the ground, and it's okay if your right glute lifts. Legs come up, drop them to the right. Left inner knee is trying to press down. It's okay if the left glute lifts. We're just making sure this is going to be all right in your body. Let's go one more time to the left. And if you look down, by the way, kind of from your hip, you want your thigh just straight down. You don't want your knee way in. That's why you had that wider stance. And then we go to the right, double check that left leg. All right, so here's how we get into the hip flexors a little more. Bring the legs up. Now, go ahead and drop your legs to the left. And what I want you to do is use your hands So you can actually, on purpose, slightly lift your right glute, tighten it, tilt your pelvis back. You're actually pushing the front of your right hip towards your left leg. You should be able to get into some sensation in the front of the right hip. Take one more breath. Relax. Bring both legs up and over to the right. We're going to do the same thing here. On purpose, lift your left bun a little off the ground. Tighten it. Tilt your pelvis back and literally push the front of your left hip towards your right leg. You should feel an opening on the left front hip and then release. Bring your legs back together. Give them a good wiggle. And then go ahead and take the legs wide. Make sure your feet are very active, toes pointing straight up. Take a couple of breaths, just lengthening forward. Let your heart move forward. Take a few breaths. And then come on up from that. Bring the legs together. Give them a nice wiggle. Good. Now, before we get all the way on our back, we're going to lie on our side. So we're going to do the same thing that we did in dancer pose, but we're going to do it lying down. So if you had a challenge getting the sensation in the front of your hip while you were standing on one leg, you get to do it lying on one side now. So lie on your right side with your knees bent. You may prop up on your right forearm, or you can prop up on your right tricep. It's whatever's more comfortable to you. I suggest that your bottom leg, which should be your right leg, keep the knee bent, but move it behind you because you're going to kind of be rolling back. If you can, grab your left foot or ankle with your left hand and then get your thighs parallel. So you don't want your legs sticking way up in the air. You want it kind of parallel to the floor. Tilt your pelvis back so your left glute is tightening. Pull the left leg behind you, behind you, behind you, really sharply, tilting the pelvis back until you feel this on the front of your left hip, and then breathe. And release. Go ahead and transition to your left side. Again, you can rest on the forearm or all the way down on the tricep. Knees are bent, but you kind of want your bottom leg, your left leg, a little bit behind you. Grab your right foot or ankle, get those legs parallel. Don't let that right leg stick up. Tilt your pelvis back, tighten that right glute, and pull the right leg behind you, really strongly tilting the pelvis so that you feel this on the front of your right hip. And then release that. And from here, you may roll onto your back, hug your knees in, and side to side rock. So we're still going to be opening the front of the hips, but from here, it goes into the more passive stretches. So everything you've done up to this point has been a really active stretch. You've been on purpose, tightening muscles to cause a reflex release. Now you'll get to just kind of relax into poses that will give you a little more benefit from a very passive state. So go ahead and grab your block, or if you're using a towel or a blanket, just make sure you've got it folded so it's maybe 4 or 5 inches tall. If you're using an actual yoga block, you're going to want it at the lowest level. You're going to slide it up underneath the back side of your hips. You're safer, not your low back, but you want your bum on the block or the blanket. And then we're going to pull the left knee into our chest and then extend the right leg all the way out and then totally relax it. Now, when you relax your right leg, chances are the knee is going to bend, the foot's going to flop one way or another. It's all fine. You want your right leg totally relaxed on the ground. Then you're going to pull your left knee in towards your chest enough that you feel your pelvis tilting back, except now it's not taking any effort. And then you simply wait and breathe. If your right leg is truly relaxed and you're at the right place on your block or blanket, After 3 or 4 breaths, you should definitely feel the front of your right hip. So that's all you have to do right now is slow, deep breaths. Couple more breaths on this side. Now just bend your right knee. So you're sliding your right foot back towards the block. And then put your left foot down beside it. And then hug your right knee into your chest. And then extend your left leg out. Adjust your block if you need to. I'm saying that because I need to adjust mine. So you extend your left leg completely, and then you totally relax it. It's okay if the left knee bends and the foot flops. You want your heel on the floor. Then you pull your right knee into your chest enough that the pelvis tilts. So you actually, when you just start paying attention, if you're truly relaxed here, you'll start to feel sensation on the front of your left hip. And again, all you do is slow, deep breaths. Two more breaths on this side. And then you're going to just slide your left foot so your left foot's flat. Put your right foot down beside it. And just pause for a moment. So it really depends on you and your body and your flexibility and how you're feeling today and all of those variables. So we're going to move into supported bridge next, and we want it, again, for opening up the hip flexors. So if you have back issues and you want to stay at this low level, you'll have to use a tiny bit of effort to just tilt the pelvis back, but then you just hang out here. Those of you that feel like you would like to, you can flip your block up to the mid-level. Please make sure your hips, your pelvis are supported, not the low back. And again, if you got really long legs, you might even need to go to the highest level or just play with tilting the pelvis back. So you choose like low level, mid-level, whatever. You don't even have to worry too much about your rib cage today. What I want you to focus on is having big toes touching, heels separating, and then just tilting the pelvis back. So you can think of it as just kind of trying to poke your pubic bone towards the ceiling. And then you just rest here. So you're going to feel your glutes are a tiny bit tight. Front of the hips should be opening. You just relax and you breathe. Two more breaths like this. Now, if you're still at the lowest level of the block, keep it there. If you bumped it up for your supported bridge, take it back down to the lower level. So you get to shorten what you've just lengthened. And you want to make sure that your block or your blanket roll, whatever you're using, is at the right spot, because what we're going to do is float the legs up and they should feel like they're just floating. If they don't feel like they're floating effortlessly, you might need to scoot your block or blanket a little closer to your tailbone So what you're basically doing is using the angle of your support, your block, to tilt the pelvis forward in this case, so that you're getting the legs to just kind of float up. It shouldn't feel like you have to use any effort at all. They should just be right up in the air, zero muscular effort, and you just breathe. Two more breaths in this lovely restorative pose. And then as you're ready to come out of it, you can just slowly bring your feet back down to the floor, lift your backside up, move your block out from underneath you. You can set it off to the side, you're done with it now. Hug the knees in, then give them a nice good squeeze and rock side to side. And then with your knees bent and your feet still in the air, separate your knees and reach the arms between the knees to grab the arches of the feet to come into a proper dead bug. So you want your lower leg vertical. You want your hands on the inside arches of your feet. Your feet are flexed. So your ankles are kind of vertically stacked over your knees and you're pulling straight down. So this is such a beautiful counter pose for that front hip. You should get lots of squeeze for your iliopsoas, your hip flexors. A couple more breaths here. And then just hug the knees in, good squeeze. And we'll just do a gentle twist here. So you're gonna just keep both knees bent and together, drop them over to the right, let your left arm open out to the left, let your head turn to the left. Don't worry too much about form here. You're really just kind of letting your body self-adjust and relax. So sometimes I ask you to keep your knees together and all that stuff. Today, you don't have to worry about any of it. You just want a nice, yummy spinal twist. One more breath on this side. And then on your next inhale, you'll bring your legs back up. As you exhale, just drop both knees over to the left. Let your right arm open out to the right. Head turns to the right. And you just get comfortable and relax. One more breath here. And then bring your legs back up. Hug the knees in, rock side to side. Now you can reach down and grab the outside edges of your feet. Do a little happy babying. So just double checking how the back side of the hips feel. You got a little bit of gluteal action, you got a little bit of hamstrings, you got a little bit of everything, but a whole lot of front hips. So check in with all the rest of your body. And then when you do feel like you're ready, go ahead and place your feet on the mat, ankles and knees together. And we're just going to go into that nice gentle hip roll. So as you exhale, both knees drop to one side. And as you inhale, both knees come up. As you exhale, they drop the opposite direction. Just keep rolling your hips in accordance with your breath rate. When you feel even, you're going to let the soles of the feet touch, let the knees drop open. And I want you to just stay passive here for a moment, letting the inner thighs have their final little stretch. So just totally relaxed with the feet together and the knees apart. And then the next time you breathe in, final backward tilt of the pelvis, take the curve out of your low back. So you're just pressing your low back into the mat, holding it, let your back lengthen. And then exhale and release. We're going to do it one more time. Inhale, flatten your back, hold it. And then exhale and release. So from here, either just extending your legs and slowly finding your way into Shavasana, or for those of you who are in a chillier place like I am and you need to grab either socks or another layer, get yourself warm so that you can relax in your Shavasana. And so as you do, extend the legs and separate the feet. I suggest particularly today that you do that little internal, external rotation at the thighs or hips. So really kind of roll the legs in and out a couple of times and then just let them flop. That'll really help relax and soften the hip flexors. Make sure your hands are below the heart, palms facing up. If you need to today, if it's cold, you can have your hands resting on the abdomen if you prefer. Close your eyes, soften your jaw, soften your face. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale through the mouth. Just kind of take a moment and let your body settle. As your body finds its way into that beautiful deep relaxation that it is so used to, I want you to just check in with the area around the front of your hips. At this point, you either have a lot of sensation, or if you're normally tight there, you might have zero sensation, which is also really nice. It means things have loosened and let go. So like there is no wrong answer. But just notice if you have more or less sensation in the front of your hips than you're used to. And so this area corresponds to our second energy center called Svadhisthana Chakra. And that corresponds to the water element, which kind of makes sense since our bladder is there. It's also the seat of our creativity. And I want you to come back to the idea of water, fluidity, flow. I want you to feel how you are, in fact, predominantly water. We think of ourselves as these solid creatures, and yet more than half of our body weight is water. We're made up of water. Each little cell is a fluid-filled sac. We are a collection of fluid-filled sacs, making us one large fluid-filled sac. Get in touch with that part of you that is fluid. I want you to think about what happens when there is a body of water, whether that's a dish full of water or an entire ocean. When another droplet of water is dropped into it, it's no longer distinct. It becomes just part of that water. So I want you to think of yourself as that droplet and the flow of life as being the larger body of water. And for these next few minutes of silence, I want you to allow yourself to literally drop into the flow of life, merge with the flow of life, and become part of that flow. Notice how it feels to allow yourself to surrender to that flow, to not have any resistance, to simply merge and move in ways that have no resistance. And just begin to feel back into your body again, your fluid body. Noticing how everything feels. Beginning to move the fingers and toes a little bit. Beginning to deepen your breath. The next time you breathe in, spread your fingers and toes. And then as you exhale, relax your fingers and toes. And then breathe in even deeper and stretch through the arms and legs. And again, exhale as you relax the arms and legs. Hug your knees into your chest if that feels good to you, or just bend the knees, whichever is more comfortable. And then roll to your right side and pause for a breath. Use your left hand in front of your chest to press yourself up to sitting. So as you come back to this nice, aligned, straight spine, just kind of settle back into your skin. We're going to be doing a really basic Ujjayi breath for our pranayama, but I'm going to have you do something a little bit different. You're going to actually do a partial Uddiyana Bandha while you're doing the breath. What that basically means in plain English is I'm going to ask you to pull your navel in, kind of suck your stomach in while you're doing a strong Ujjayi breath. You're going to keep your stomach pulled in. Here's what that does. Normally when we breathe, we do this deep diaphragmatic breathing, right? The belly extends, the rib cage, the chest. You're taking the whole deep abdominal part out of the equation. So you're going to keep your navel pulled in, and you're going to do deep ujjayi breathing. It makes it all a chest breath, which is going to be different from what I normally have you do, but it's really cool because it creates internal warmth. So it's going to heat you up from the inside out. It's great for metabolism. It's great for detoxifying. It's very good for your core muscles. And what you will notice, like I can't hear you since we're not in a group situation, but I want you to listen. Your ujjayi breath should be louder. If you normally sound like that beautiful, soft ocean sound in a seashell, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be like Darth Vader's in the room. It should sound like this huge aqua lung. So you don't have to count any particular ratio or anything, but you still want to go super slow and deep with your breath, but it's going to be a different deep because you can't pull it into your abdomen. It's just going to be deep in and out of the chest. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense to you. So nice straight spine. Pull your navel in, like really suck that navel in, like holding your belly in really strongly. And then begin a nice slow ujjayi breath in and out through the nose while maintaining that stomach lock. Let your breathing return to normal. Just sit for a moment. Eyes remain closed. Just notice how you feel. Notice if you did get warmer. Notice if you feel a little more energized after your shavasana. You've kind of brought more energy back into your body. Notice if your core feels more awake now. And then just take the opportunity as well to check in with your thoughts, your emotions, your energy. And then go ahead and bring palms together in front of the heart. We always pause in gratitude. And today is a great day to be grateful for the things that we often take for granted. Things like shelter and heat, electricity, running water. Things that we don't even probably acknowledge most of the time that truly are luxuries that we should be grateful for. And then gratitude for this practice that helps keep us healthy, limber, strong, alive. Take one more huge breath in through your nose. Big, happy sigh through your mouth. We bring our palms together in front of our foreheads, and this is a reminder to be present, to just stay aware. We bring our palms together in front of our lips, and it reminds us to speak our truth for good cause. We bring our palms together in front of our hearts, and this reminds us to keep our hearts open, to always, always come from a place of kindness and compassion and love. Thank you guys for joining me. Namaste.